Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really radical idea from a recent academic paper. What if the best way to survive a total collapse is to have no plan at all? Yeah, let's really dig into that. I mean, it sounds completely backward, right? But it's at the heart of this paper's argument that in times of total chaos, our obsession with having a master plan might actually be our biggest weakness.
Okay, so first things first, we got to get on the same page about what the paper even means by collapse. And it's not what you might think. It's not some single big event like a switch being flipped. No, they're talking about it as a whole new kind of environment, one that's just fundamentally unstable and, completely unpredictable. So this new environment, it has four key features that make it so tricky. For one, it's totally unpredictable. You've got these cascading feedback loops where one thing sets off another. It's also really uneven, right? It's not going to hit everywhere the same way. Plus, things can change on a dime, just incredibly fast. And maybe the biggest one, all our systems are so tangled up together that one little failure can trigger a total domino effect across the board.
And that's the real kicker, isn't it? The central challenge here isn't just solving one specific problem. You can't just isolate an issue, design a solution, and then roll it out. The problem is the system itself, the fact that it's in constant, cascading disruption. The ground is literally shifting under your feet. All right, so if that's the world we're dealing with, this leads us straight to the paper's first huge argument, that the very systems we count on for order, governments, big institutions, all those top-down plans, they are completely, fundamentally unsuited for this new reality. The paper uses this really powerful idea it calls brittleness, and the analogy is perfect. Think of our normal systems like a beautiful, intricate glass statue. It's perfectly optimized for stability, right? As long as nothing touches it, it's great. But the moment it's hit with unexpected stress, it just shatters. That's our systems. And this slide just lays it out so clearly. It's this total structural mismatch. On one side, you have what our normal systems need to function: stability, people following the rules, working infrastructure, central planning. But then you look at what a collapsed reality actually delivers: total turbulence, constant improvisation, systems failing left and right, and just distributed chaos. They're trying to solve two completely different puzzles. And yeah, this quote from the source just hits the nail on the head. The more optimized a system is for stability, the more brittle it becomes when stability disappears. The very thing that makes a system strong in normal times is its fatal flaw in a crisis. Okay, so if the big, official, top-down plans are pretty much doomed to fail, what actually works? Well, to answer that, the paper turns to a pretty surprising field: disaster sociology. Basically, the study of how real people behave in actual catastrophes. And you know what? The research from actual disasters, from hurricanes to earthquakes, it's crystal clear. Survival doesn't come from waiting for the government to show up or following official orders on TV. It comes from the ground up. It's about those dense, local social ties. It's about community-level cooperation, informal networks of people helping each other out. It's about rapid improvisation, and this is key, not waiting for institutional guidance. And this is where the paper's argument really pivots, right? Because what this evidence shows is that the most effective crisis response isn't that top-down command and control model we're so used to. It's the exact opposite: voluntary, non-hierarchical cooperation, people working together because they choose to. So that brings us to the proposed solution. The paper calls it the anarchist nihilist playbook. Now hold on. I know those are some seriously loaded words, right? But it's really important to understand that the paper is using them in a very specific academic sense. This isn't about a political ideology. It's about a framework for radical adaptability. Okay, so the first piece of this framework is something called temporal refusal. What does that mean? It means you reject obligations to both the past, tradition, this is how we've always done it, and to some hypothetical future, some grand 5-year plan. You let go of both. The focus is entirely on the immediate present. What do we need to do right here, right now? The next piece is negation. And again, this isn't about just destroying things for the sake of it. Think of it as the freedom to say no. It's the ability to look at a plan or a structure or an institution that is clearly failing and just abandon it immediately, without guilt, without that ideological drag that makes us stick with bad ideas. So you take those two ideas, refusing the past and future, and the freedom to say no, and they lead you to what the source calls nihilist presence. This is all about acting without needing some big historical or future justification. Your actions become immediate, local, and based entirely on present needs. Things like relational care, helping your neighbor because they need help now, or improvisation because it's what works in this very moment.
And this is so important to get. The goal here isn't chaos. Not at all. The goal is to generate the maximum amount of what the paper calls adaptive variety. See, when you let go of forcing one single top-down plan on everyone, you allow hundreds of different local experimental strategies to pop up. And by having all that variety, you dramatically increase the odds that some of them are going to work.
Okay, so let's bring it all home. What are the real practical advantages of using this kind of framework in a crisis? Why does the paper argue it actually outperforms our normal way of doing things? Well, the paper says it gives you 4 massive advantages. 1, you can ditch failing structures super fast without hesitation. 2, you can provide immediate care to people around you without getting bogged down in bureaucracy. 3, you empower people to improvise without needing to ask for permission. And 4, and this is a big one, it helps communities resist what's called crisis capture, when authorities use a disaster to grab more power permanently.
This table just sums up the whole argument perfectly. You've got the 2 opposing models side by side. The normative systems, they centralize and control. They reduce strategic variety. They're focused on future legitimacy. And the outcome? Brittleness. Now look at the anarcho-nihilist framework. It distributes and improvises. It generates variety. It focuses on present needs. And the outcome, the paper argues, is genuine resilience.
And really, this is the takeaway. This is the core claim of the entire analysis. That maybe, just maybe, by letting go of control, communities can gain the very flexibility they need to navigate a future that is, by its nature, completely uncontrollable.
So the source material leaves us with this final, really provocative question to chew on. In a world that's fundamentally unpredictable, is the most resilient strategy to just let go of the future? It's a huge challenge to how we think about planning, about control, and about what it truly means to survive.